wood chipper as quickly as possible, because once they start thawing, it becomes like green crab ice cream mush, just plopping out of the wood chipper instead of ejecting like you want it to. Then it's mixed with wood chips and food scraps that we collect from the tribal kitchen, and
oh boy, we're going there for lunch.
I didn't bring out any coffee, but they've got a great little coffee machine down there. So we just received word that we're getting a grant that we applied for through the EPA, because we've ramped up our composting efforts. You can see the composting, 3-bin composting units back here. I built 2 of those when the garden started, and we outgrew those within the first 2 years. Once the green crab started coming in, like we couldn't keep up with it, and it was just way too labor intensive. When we got our first grant from Group Health Foundation, we were able to purchase the high tunnel, small subcompact tractor that we do the chipping of the crab. And once we had the tractor, I decided I wasn't shoveling compost anymore. I was going to start doing it out in big piles. We received word that we got this grant, and it's a $980,000 grant to build a structure and buy equipment. So we're starting a composting facility where people will be able to bring their landscape trimmings. In the future, hopefully even food scraps, but got to work up to that, because there's a whole different set of standards and expectations when you're bringing in food scraps. But I just recently took the compost operation training course through the USCC, the United States Composting Council. So hopefully later this year, we'll be getting those funds and start work on building the fabric structure so it'll let natural light through, but somewhat contain the odors. It'll still be open on both ends, because when you close one of those buildings up, it gets pretty hard to breathe in there.
So what will you wear with all the compost?
It'll be available to the public after we meet our needs for the farm. Probably next year it'll be made available to the public, fingers crossed, if everything works well. Yeah. By the yard, and we'll deliver locally, or you can come in and bag it up and take it home yourself that way. Yeah. It'll be right at the back of the farm.
What about the wastewater treatment plant? Any of the leftover spoilage there, like the city of Long Beach does?
No. Westport does that as well, and they make it available to the public, but they're using their biosolids, so for crop production it wouldn't work.
Wouldn't work here?
Yeah.
I avoid using it when I'm doing vegetables and fruit and things like that. I don't know what the standards are there, but...
So when you put the green crab in with whatever is going to happen in that function?
Yeah.
Then what happens when you run out of green crab?
I don't think that's going to be a problem. No, I really don't, because the numbers, when we started trapping, the numbers have gotten higher since, yeah. We're collecting more now than when we began trapping.
So how often do you collect them, and how much?
We trap every week, and it depends on the time of year how much we actually bring back. In our peak, we're bringing in 1,800 a week. Other weeks, 400. So last year we pulled over 80,000, and our numbers this year are far above what we had at this point last year.
Oh, wow.
We got an airboat with the big fan on the back,
cool.
so that we
I've
can
seen you out
hit
there with
all the areas that we weren't able to access on foot. there's so much mud that we wouldn't even be able to get to half the areas that we're getting our best numbers. So right behind the garden, we call this Kindred Island back here. The airboats made it so that we can access that, and that our numbers just exploded with that access there.
How do you track it?
We use square shrimp traps that are mainly made by Willapa Marine, I think it's called, out past Menlo. They have a small hole that funnels down to just the right size for green crab, and we normally only set about 20 at most. Sometimes we'll bump it up to 30 traps for a 24-hour soak. The first day we usually pull 800-900 during the peak, and then another 600 to 700 the following day. So we only trap usually 2 days a week.
Do you get is there other ones that get in there too, some of the smaller?
Yeah, we have to throw back Dungeness
Right.
and Red Rock. We get all kinds of interesting things in the traps. We've found weasel stuck in there. We've found birds. We've pulled out lingcod, little itty bitty lingcod. Some wild things find their way into those traps at low tide. Some high tide, but yeah, the weasel I assume made it in there during low tide.
So is this a new process, or did you adapt this from something else?
I'm not sure where they originally got the idea to start using the shrimp pots, but it's evolved over time. They originally started using itty bitty traps and progressed to the shrimp pots, and those, now everybody around the state has moved to the shrimp pots because the numbers are just so much better in those pots.
So I meant the composting process. It's being done other places,
Actually,
or is this new?
some I believe are going to make fertilizer over in South Bend. Or I'm not positive on that, but right now we're taking all of the county's crab and trying to spread the word. Once we get the composting facility, we'll be taking whoever's crab is willing. If they're willing to freeze them and bring them to us, then they'll go into our composting efforts. I'm not sure how many other folks are actually composting at this point, but the original plan was to put them in plastic bags and landfill them. Like, that doesn't make any sense at all to me.
So do they, has anybody done crabs before, some kind of crab as a fertilizer? Like, that does,
Crab meal, like the byproduct from, after they pulled the meat, they use the shell, which has its benefits, obviously, yeah. But I don't know about anyone composting entire crabs.
There's Pacific Grow, a company years ago that I met. I met them at one of the Seattle Home and Garden Show, and they used to sell it in those huge buckets to gardens. So it was crab and fish fertilizer, two separate things. So Pacific Grow, I don't know if they're still in business.
Did they make crab by itself, or was it just a mixture?
It was a mixture, but they called it a crab meal for gardeners.
Yeah, they, as far as I know, they're still in business. I have some of their fertilizer that was donated.
It was pretty good, actually. Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm hoping that the number of green crab that we get will keep growing. I mean, the ones that are being given to us, because we can only trap so much from our little area. But trafficking the green crab from great distances doesn't make sense either. And like, they need to start this all across the state. Or right now, the green crab are a problem from Alaska all the way down to California, as far as I know.
Where'd they come from?
Europe originally, in the bilge water and fishing vessels in the larval form. So when they're larvae, they can float on currents.
Oh gosh.
As far as you can imagine, and then that's how they originally came over, was just the bilge water.
Is there a bounty when people bring collect and bring in? Is there a subsidy? I mean, is Washington State subsidizing this if people catch it and turn
I
it
think
in?
that would be a great idea, but no, not at this point. They're actually telling people to put them back and
What?
call in and let WDFW or Shoalwater Bay Tribe. We have signs down here at the marina for people to let us know that they've trapped one when they were crabbing or whatever. When we're out there and somebody happens to pull one up, we just crush it and take it with us. Like, no, don't put them back. In our opinion, that's what I mean.
It's defeating the purpose.
It's job security, but yeah.
How big are they? I'm sorry, I don't know anything about these crabs.
Itty bitty to 4 inches, 4.5 at most, I think. Yeah.
Are they
Yeah.
really green?
Most of the time. When they get ready to molt, they start turning orange and then almost to a red by the time they're ready to molt. The females have the same typical wider triangle on their bellies, but the triangle's normally really green on the females and not green at all on the male. I guess they
really
can,
prolific too?
yeah, one female can hold like, I believe it's 150, 180,000 eggs. And they're called gravids when they actually have the eggs on their stomach, and that little triangle on their stomach pops open and expands and even comes out between their hind legs, sticks out, and then it's just clustered with these tiny little orange eggs.
Sounds alien.
So how do you freeze them?
We put them in bags similar to this and put them in a 7-foot chest freezer. And they have to be in there for at least 48 hours. We've pulled them out of the freezer after 30 hours and brought them out to the garden to get composted. The guys dropped them off and didn't tell me that they dropped them off. And I looked out from my back window and saw the totes sitting in front of the shed, so I went over there to deal with them, and I found crab wandering around on the ground. They came out of the freeze and hopped out of the bin and were walking all over. 5 days later, I found those crabs still alive, wandering around in the grass when I went to mow. I thought I had gathered them all up, but around the backside of the building, I was mowing and saw something move, and that's a green crab, still alive. I was just, oh my God, frozen for 30 hours and still alive and wandering around 5 days later.
Wow. They're resilient.
And they're
See
still,
why they're
they're
invasive.
definitely not edible, right?
Oregon is offering them to anybody who catches them. Eat all you can. Eat all you can.
So you can eat them.
You can. They're itty bitty. There's not a lot of meat to them, and I guess on the East Coast they've started, from what I've heard, on the East Coast they trap them, hold them in captivity. The ones that are close to molting, that are starting to turn yellow, they'll keep them in captivity until they molt, then sell them as soft shell.
Yeah.
So then they just eat them whole. Oregon opened it up, like I said, to as many as you can catch, go ahead and eat them. Washington is lagging behind in that aspect, I guess.
So Travis, is anyone else doing the process that you're doing? Is this an extreme experiment at this point, or are other people composting?
I haven't heard yet of other folks composting, but I'm sure when they see what we're doing, it's going to spread. I mean,
Exactly.
the logical way to deal with them is to get operations like this set up everywhere so that nobody's having to truck them across the state.
Yeah.
So what results have you seen using them out here in the garden?
I've started using the compost this year, so
Oh, not yet.
it's still kind of early to say. I have transplanted a bunch of my seedlings into complete, like 100% compost because of all the sand. We're doing it on the ground in these piles, So obviously sand gets mixed in the process of turning the piles. The compost, I can bring a little bit of it in here. It's